today we are going to talk all about breast cancer, and I have been very lacking in knowledge, and then over the years gained knowledge through to personal circumstances, and my mother had breast cancer. So I just thought it would be fantastic to speak to Rachel, who is the chief kind of person to chat to at Breast Cancer Awareness. She's the Director of Nursing and Breast Cancer Awareness, and it's a charity very close to our heart because we have done a collaboration with them in the past with Sharon, Our Lip to Cheek, which is named after a really inspirational woman called Sharon, who is a part of our Trinny tribe, and she is going through breast cancer now. Very long journey, and we give a percentage, we give 10% of Sharon to breast cancer. But we also today on Trinny London have launched virtual appointments for people who are going through breast cancer, whether they are just having chemo, radiotherapy or post-treatment, and just helping them to really have that glow back in their life. You know, you might have a fantastic mental attitude, or you might be physically and mentally depleted by what you're going through. And so we got Breast Cancer Now to train up our makeup artist to help with all the things that could be side effects from chemo or from radiotherapy, whether it's losing your brows, that sort of paperness of your skin, you know, the draining sort of grayness. A lot of women whose makeup I do have that sort of what they feel a chemo face, and just post when your hair has changed, the texture might have changed, and your you know, you actually, when you go through life-challenging circumstances in your life, life-challenging situations in your life, there's a difference about us as women, I think, at the end of that journey, and who we want to be, and really addressing who do we want to be, how do we want to come across. So anything we can do to help with that is really important at Trinny London. But today I am excited to speak to Rachel because there's many questions, and we had a little prep chat last week, and I asked her lots of questions like, you know, if your mother has breast cancer and she's over a certain age, how worrying is that for you? If you're somebody younger, you know, what percentage of women don't get themselves checked and as a result might get breast cancer? How often should you check? How often should you have a mammogram? There's government regulations around the world. They're all different. You know, we have one here that I think is every 2 or 3 years, depending on your age. America is different because they have private medical insurance. So everyone does it differently. And we're also today going to learn how to really check our breasts. And I've never learned that properly, I have to say. You know, even though my mother had breast cancer, I just kind of do this in the shower, you know, and instead of it being like, oh, how can, you know, I'm just doing once every so, it's just how can we in our daily life, and Rachel's going to teach us this, be more aware of our breasts in the medical way. Great. So I hope you're getting the sense of what we're going to do. I'm just going to say hello to a few people, and then we will get Rachel Rawson on. Good morning, Angela. Good morning, Henry. Good morning. It's really, you know, if there's any men watching here and you have women in your life, you know, it's and you feel they might not be checking their breasts properly, great to encourage them to think about it. I think there is nobody I know who has not been in some ways affected by breast cancer. Sophia, hello. Leanne, hello, darling. Hello from Saudi Arabia, Dana. Hello, G. Hello, Stavi. Hello, Caroline. Hello, Monique. Hello, Deborah. First time seeing me live. Welcome. Good morning, Trinity from Greece. Hello, my dear. How are you?
Oh, lovely to see you.
You too, darling. Really nicely. I'm glad we could connect now. So Rachel is the Associate Director of Nursing at Breast Cancer Now. And when we had a little prep chat, Rachel, we were going through all the different, you know, conversations. But I think, should we start with some stats, or should we start with how to check your breasts? Where do you want to start the conversation?
Probably maybe some stats. I think that might put things into perspective.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I did ask you some stats on our pre-call, and just, you know, one of the stats I asked you is like, I think we get information in the back of our head. So my mother had breast cancer over the age of 60. And then I remember thinking, because it was over 60, I shouldn't worry. All right. And that's what I said to myself. And I have a mammogram every 2 years now because I'm 58. But I just wonder around that, you know, if you've had a direct ascendant, you start where you feel it's most relevant, Rachel. Yeah.
Perfect. So probably the best place to start is the risk factors. Being a woman, we can't change that. getting older, we can't change that. About 80% of women over the age of 50 will develop breast cancer. You know, that is the age.
So
not 80% will develop it, but the people who are diagnosed with it will be over the age of 50.
Okay, that's a very important to understand that. So once you're over 50, the 80% of breast cancer is diagnosed there, and under 50, 20% of the breast cancer is diagnosed.
And up to the age of 40, it's uncommon. Having said that, when it affects a woman under the age of 40, when it affects any woman, it is really profound.
Yeah.
Under the age of 40, you're dealing with lots of different things, families, life, careers, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about family history, I too have a mum who was diagnosed with breast cancer in her 60s. That isn't going to impact in terms of that true genetic family history, inherited breast cancer, which usually affects young women.
There's a lady here who's 33 when she got it. Yeah, so that one could have been,
Yeah, so for those younger women, if they have a family history where their mothers were diagnosed at a young age, sort of 40-ish, they've got several generations in their family, that is something that you need to go to your GP, talk it through with them, take your family history with you, and they will then decide if you need to be seen in a breast clinic, and they will then, if necessary, refer you onto a genetic centre. But it is only about 5% of women who will need that, really, the genetic testing, etc.
Okay, and this is UK, just to clarify, you are talking about UK, because we have a lot of people from Australia, it might be slightly different rules, and America.
It's pretty standard the world over in terms of...
Can I ask you, a few women here are saying I was 36, I was 40 when I had it, and I had no history. So do you know what proportion, another lady, I was 35, but I'd had IVF. This is an interesting one I want to discuss with you too. But do you know what proportion of women who got it under the age of sort of 40 did not have any family? No.
I don't know that.
Yeah. A few people here saying they had the gene test. I think if your mother's had it young, it's really responsible to do the gene test. Christelle, who's had it, she said she did a genetic test and her daughters have a 25% increased chance of getting it because their mother had it young. Okay.
So the message to get across is it's not common to have that inherited risk.
Yeah.
What is really, really important is the issue of getting older, so that we are having our screening in the UK, even in America, Australia. I know your audience is from all around the world. We do have state-funded screening programs. In the UK, runs from 50 to 70, a mammogram every 3 years. On the top of that, you need to be breast aware, which is a lot about what we're talking about today. And just whilst I remember, if you are having mammograms every 3 years, please remember to be breast aware in between those mammograms.
I know, I think that's something that's really, really important, because it's like, also if you feel a young 50, for example, like me, I'm relying on, at the moment I am, Rachel, I'm really, really glad we're having this conversation, because I have a daughter and I have a responsibility to be the best I can for myself and for her and those around me, but just to think, okay, I need to not just rely on that. There's so many questions coming through, Rachel. So as we go, can I just ask you one or two in case, there's, and this is quite a few women, and I can so understand this, just I'm terrified of it coming back. I'm almost scared to check now for fear of finding something. And that's like, I can imagine many, many women identify on that, Rachel. Are there, at breast cancer now, are there, for people who are in remission but have, need a support group? I'm sure that breast cancer now offers that, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
We absolutely do. I mean, we speak to many women on our helpline every day.
Yeah.
Huge fear of breast cancer coming back after treatment.
Yeah.
We are there today. We are open. We're there tomorrow. 0808 800 6000 callers UK. We're talking.
Okay, that's fine. That's great. One other thing before we go on to the next thing is some AM6B is saying, could you explain if there's such a thing as a good breast or a cancer-prone breast? That's a really,
there is or has been some work around dense breasts, and it might be that if you've been to a breast clinic before, if you've got dense breasts, it's likely that your breasts are going to be quite hard to check. And you might have been alerted and had to go to a breast clinic and been told when you've had a mammogram that you've got dense breasts. So that might be something that might
it's more just not that they're more prone to get it, but it's harder to identify it.
Well,
Is that
potentially,
a little bit?
potentially,
Can
yeah.
I ask as well, because I think another reason some women don't do breast testing is that some women get breast cancer, but there were no lumps, they didn't feel lumps. Even, you know, so I'm just saying, so other women might hear that story and think, well, then how is that going to help me? So I just want you to reinforce why it's so important, this breast awareness.
I mean, I think that you've really made a very important point. Breast cancer is not just a lump. You might find a lump, but you might also find a change. So it might be that when you're washing and showering, you notice an area of thickening. So it might just feel a bit different. Okay. You might notice when you're looking at yourself in the mirror that your nipple is pulled in when it hasn't been before. You might notice that the skin has got a dimple on it, so it looks again like it's pulled in.
Okay.
You might notice a rash, a red rash. Now, many of these things will not be cancer, will not be cancer, but you should always go and get them checked out and just have a think. Have you got your periods? Are you going to be coming onto your period soon, and is that why your breasts are lumpy? Are you on HRT? Have you just changed your contraceptive pill? Have you, you know, lots of different things can impact. Are you pregnant?
A lot of people are saying the mammograms, maybe like somebody going back and they didn't pick up the secondary cancer, or people just not having a mammogram work. So I mean, it's like, I don't want people to be put off having mammograms because I think they're like really, really important to do. But can you just tell me a bit, if you know a bit about that? So
in terms of having mammograms, they're the best test that we've got to check for breast cancer in its earliest form. And that's what breast screening is about. Obviously, if you've found a change, then it's different. But if you have got no symptoms, then a mammogram is the best test that we have got. Sometimes, obviously, they cause a lot of anxiety because you're you're having your mammogram, you're worried that somebody's going to find something that you never knew was there. And they can also identify things that might or might not be cancer, which they've got to investigate. And that as well can bring with it a lot of anxiety. And diagnosing breast cancer early can sometimes mean that you have to have quite dramatic surgery in order to deal with it, even though it's been caught very, very early. And that for some people can be quite obviously really difficult to cope with.
A few more, Rachel, on somebody's mentioning that might be these are only available in other countries. I just want to understand as they come, because everyone else is reading the comments. Sophie Bauer saying you can get a thermal body scan which can detect cancer and is better for you than a mammogram.
The evidence is that the mammogram X-ray is the best test that is currently available. It's the most researched test.
And what about ultrasound or PET scans? You're still going to say mammogram is the best thing?
A mammogram, yes. And in some cases, particularly with the younger women and family history, an MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. But an ultrasound scan.
Another one here, which I mean, I find this, just reading these comments, everyone has entitled their opinion, but it pisses me, I'm really sorry. Mammograms cause breast cancer. Okay, so anyone else reading this comment from Texty Truth, and there's a lot of, you know, we have a ton of on the internet going down rabbit holes looking at shit, but you know, how many women are saved every year because they have a bloody mammogram and something is caught early? Rachel, do you know the stats on that?
I don't know the complete stat off the top of my head, but it will be several thousand. And just everybody's got to make their choice about whether they go for a mammogram. And please use reputable information sites when you are looking into having these kinds of checks. Breast cancer now, just have a read of our information. We've got a very balanced view on this.
I was concerned, so I had an MRI as well as the ultrasound. I had to pay, but it was worth it. I mean, there is that feeling some people feel they really just want, you know, they're very worried and they want to have everything. You know, I've got Inga, recently our sister was diagnosed with breast cancer age 38. The driver is the ATM gene. Ali's sister's now on do research, and the right knowledge on monitoring is crucial. So
and just going back to your point about ultrasound, just to say ultrasound is only useful if you have on the whole, if you have found a change.
And
it's not useful as a screening tool.
a lovely lady from Australia saying, I'm a radiotherapist in Australia. Mammograms are not a perfect test, but we detect an enormous number of cancers early. And this is the most important thing. If you have it, you catch it early. Yeah. Okay, can we do some now? I mean, I'd love to know how many people on here who are watching right now feel they don't know how to check their breasts. I'd really love to know that, because I am going to say I don't, and just own up that one. Yeah, so I just love to know that if you yeah. So Suze, I would never refuse a mammogram now. Ali Bailey, hello my darling, nice to see you. Sharose, lots of misconceptions surrounding lumps. People told mine was just a cyst because cancerous lumps don't have pain. Any lump needs checking no matter what. I think you agree with that, Rachel, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, thank you. Mammogram is so painful. I think it depends on your breasts. I'm sure the bigger the breast, it can feel that, but you know,
sometimes the smaller the breast, it's
yeah. I mean, I find they squidge and I feel them squidging into nothingness, but you know, it's like it's over in a sec, you know, and that little time to do that. My BC was picked up at a routine mammogram. Lucky because it caught it early. Don't put it off, peeps. It's low dose radiation, says Cassie. It will not cause cancer. This is like misinformation.
Yes, thank you.
If I did not have my mammogram, I would not have known, and it could have been worse, like chemotherapy. So somebody who caught it really early. So these are all brilliant points. So I'm just interested now. I'm going to scroll forward because there's so many comments here about whether you feel that you've had you know how to check. So can we just do that, Rachel? I've got on a bra and I just thought we could do that together. And just on the, you said this thing to me that it's not about what, you know, in the shower, or it's like to make it a part of your daily knowledge of your breast. So explain that in little detail before we actually do the breast examination.
I would start off by saying that we are checking our breasts without thinking about it often through our day. When we're washing, when we're in the shower, when we're putting our body lotion on, we are checking. So, you know, I think women feel really pressured into checking that there is this formal way, but actually all the time we are doing that. And women are very, very intuitive and will notice, or their partners might, that there's something different or new. And the message really is, if you do find something, go and talk to your GP, healthcare professional, whatever, wherever you are.
I mean, I've gone down that road too, Rachel, that I've had a lump, you know, or a little painfulness, and I've had the thing taken out and checked, you know, and it was benign. But, you know, I just even remember, you know, I haven't gone through anything that a lot of people on here have gone through, but just that worry I had.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell me then, so is there, can you just also just take us through?
Right, what I might do is I might just move my camera a bit.
Great, thank you.
And stand up.
This will be, by the way, this will be on, so you can come back to this if you just got this in your feed. And yeah, I just hear, Eugene, I work on co-vaccination program. Misinformation is causing death. So much crap out there about breast cancer screening causing cancer. It doesn't, I know. Okay, so yeah.
If you want to check your breasts and you want to do it in a more formal way, then I would stand in front of the mirror with no clothes on, obviously. And then I would put my arms out to the side and I would lift them up and down like that. And I'd watch the breast tissue rise and fall. And that way you can see right underneath your breast. You can see if there's any dimpling. You can just have a good look at what's going on. I would then, I mean, again, you can sit up in bed and do this, or you can, you know, wherever's comfortable, but you can put your hand behind your head, always check underneath your arm with the flat of your hand, this part here, and just feel down here like that. And then you can work, there's lots of different ways you can do this, you'll find your own way, but if your hand's behind your head, you can feel across your breast, working backwards and forwards like this, but with the flat of the hand, because if you use your fingers, you will feel all sorts of lumps and bumps, which are natural.
That's why you keep them flat. Good, it's good to know that, because I never knew why you actually kept them flat. So you have a more objective feeling of the shapes.
So you're going across the breast. Some people work around the breast. It's absolutely whatever works for you.
Can I ask you, Rachel, if you're postmenopausal, which I am, and you feel a little bit, just a bit tender, is that worrying? Should I, it's like, I mean, it could be I was doing Pilates and I didn't realize it's a muscle I pulled. It's like sometimes tenderness can be caused by so many things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a tenderness and pain tend not to be, I mean, for some people, it will be something to do with breast cancer, but for most people, it's not. It's related usually, I mean, even when you're postmenopausal, if you're on HRT, it might be related to that. It can be just to do with muscular problems, as you've said, just general aches and pains, really.
And what about women who have had implants, either post chemo, reconstructive, or just implants, breast implants?
I mean, if you've just got breast implants, cosmetic breast implants, then yes, your breast tissue is generally over the top of the implant, so you can still check as you're doing, and still have all the usual checks that you would have if you haven't got an implant. For those women who've had a mastectomy with reconstruction, then they can still check their scar area. It's very important that they do that. Even though the breast tissue's been removed, it's important that they still check their scar area.
Yeah.
So, and just
I just want to ask as well is, actually, I'm just going to put on some pink now because I have a friend of mine who I just felt quite bad because it's not competitive breast cancer charities. I think it's all. Elizabeth Hurley tagged me today. She's a big advocate of breast cancer, and Estee Lauder are giving percentage money. So she tagged me saying, could I mention it in a tag? So I'm going to kind of jointly say, Elizabeth, we were doing it anyway. You didn't know we were doing something, but just, they're doing something as well that if you tag 5 people in it and do an awareness on your Instagram, they're giving money for how many people you get to do it. So I love that too. So anything you see, it's like, we can spread the love. For us, breast cancer now is, we love you as a charity so much. And I think that our work together with Sharon was just the beginning of that. We've been working with you since International Women's Month last year. And I hope we have a very long working relationship. So we're going to also later, if you're on the Trinny Tribe on Facebook, Rachel is going to be later having, answering all your questions. So anything that you did not get answered here, do know. What time are you doing that, Rachel?
I think it's 2:00.
2:00. And if you want to join, on Facebook, we have a global Trinny Tribe, and you can just do Trinny Tribe. And it's an amazing community of women. It's about 80,000 women around the world. But, we're going to do that as well. And Rachel's, you're very calming, Rachel. I love the way you explain stuff because there's so much there, which is, as we say, misinformation. And it's like you just don't want anyone to have any reason to not be responsible from a health perspective. Dealey, I understand cost. Somebody's here saying consultant's fee was £280. I don't know if she's from which country she's from, but in the UK, over what age do we offer it? Every 2 years?
So it's every 3 years, and it's over the age of 50. Over
the age of 50, every 3 years. But before that, we don't offer it unless you feel you found something.
And that, well, unless there's a problem or if you've got a very strong family history that needs to be.
And do you think that's right?
Yes.
You do?
Yes. The research has all supported that. And this is why breast awareness is so important, because in between those screens, things can change. And, reporting early, again, is often the key.
Yeah. There are other things as well, because I think a lot of women sometimes, and I'm just going to mention this because there might be one or two of you out there and you feel something and you think you feel something and you're too worried to pick up the phone and do something about it. Clee Lather is saying, I have lumps that come and go in the armpit. Is that weird? Now, I'm just going to say that somebody really close to me who works with me had that, and she felt a lot of lumps, like a lot of liquid, and it was actually something else. It's when the lymphs fill up, isn't it? But it wasn't in her case breast cancer related. But I remember the 2 weeks before she had an appointment, like she had the thing with the NHS and then she didn't even have another thing for 2 weeks. And she was just thinking the worst thought. And it was just this fluid. And some people have these pockets that fill up. And I mean, I'm just saying from the experience of her, Rachel, and also my daughter Lila got these lumps in her breast, but she just had COVID and she was stressed and very tired, like glandular fever. And if you think of glandular fever, I think there's we can under stress and a lot have a different type of thing in it, but can you explain that a bit more? Because I just think...
So in terms of lymph nodes, we have lymph nodes that, as you were rightly saying, that come up when we, if we've got a sore throat, we get our lymph nodes come up in our neck, and they're down the center of the body, in our groins, under our arms. So the reason we ask people to check under their arms is because breast cancer can move to the lymph glands underneath the arm. It's like the collecting system. And so if you notice a change underneath your arm, swollen glands, keep an eye on it. Think about, is it related to COVID as we're living now? Have I had an infection? If it doesn't go away, you must go and have a chat with your doctor. I mean, it's simple as that.
Can we also talk, Rachel, and a lady living with hope is saying this, and I presume it's just about secondary breast cancer. 31 people die from secondary breast cancer every day, she says, as a stat. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, at Breast Cancer Now, we are working so hard to support women who have secondary breast cancer. This is breast cancer that's come back in the rest of the body. It is it is really difficult when you're dealing with secondary breast cancer, because you're living and you want to live well. There are many treatments out there, and we are constantly striving not just for new treatments, but to get new treatments available for people, so that they can live and live well longer. It's really important to us, and we have lots of support for women out there, again in the UK.
Okay, so if you're feeling very alone and you live in the UK, then and I know there's a lot of trials, there's a lot of new drugs that are coming through all the time. Secondary First Charity does a lot with this too. Be good to get them on, Trinny. That's lovely to know. And I think they're actually on the live now too, so that's a charity specializing in secondary breast cancer. Should we be worrying about cysts in the breasts?
I mean, again, if a cyst comes up, it generally comes up quite quickly. It quite often can be related to, again, hormonal changes. If you notice a cyst, it will be a lump that you feel, more than likely. And straight away, you're going to think, I need to see someone about this. So, I mean, that's kind of it. And then you would go and see somebody, and they will probably do an ultrasound, maybe a mammogram, depending on your age, and drain it.
So I just want to repeat as well from our perspective, because there's, whatever we can do that we want, we feel can help at all. But I've spoken to a lot of women, Rachel. I know you do a lot of things at Breast Cancer Now too, and you've really kindly trained up our makeup artist team. So if you are going through breast cancer, or you've gone through chemo, radiotherapy, coming out the other side, just about, I've met women who've got so many steroids and lost their hair, and the last thing they want to do is think about putting on makeup. But these appointments are all free, and they just help you to perhaps think, my hair's come through differently, the color is different, I'm going to stick with that color, my eyebrows are gone, what shall I do? How can I feel I look well even though I feel drained and tired? And it's just to help as much as we can with that, to just assess. I think if we can look in the mirror and feel a bit more energetic, it really helps with all the stress that your body is both physically and mentally going through. And Australia, Jack Carey Max in Australia, the Jane McGrath Foundation supports women with breast cancer. These are all great ones to know. Can I ask anyone who is a part of a support group, please will you leave a comment at the end of this live, because it's really nice if you're from different countries that you can say which support groups you found really helpful for you if you have primary or secondary breast cancer, and just to help other women. And if you can share your experiences as well, because we've had, a lot of people perhaps on here scared to do it because they've heard things about a mammogram, and we want to just dispel and look at lives saved as opposed to all the noise that is out there. That's kind of, I would really say that. And, some people watching now, Christelle, in 2005, there were no breast clinics here. There was no support like we have now. I mean, I just think very tough to have breast cancer a few years ago. And facing, I went through chemo, steroids, and radiotherapy, makeup, so hard it's very hard to do. So we want to make it really easy for you and just suggest tiny things that can help you. So think about wearing pink as much as you can. It just has an awareness around it to be reminded. Wear a pink ribbon. Some charities have a pink ribbon. I don't know if you do a pink ribbon, Rachel.
So we're doing it, Wear It Pink, on the 22nd of October.
22nd
Yeah,
October.
so
Yeah.
please,
So just,
you know,
yeah.
if you want to find
All
out
right.
about it, go onto our website, breastcancernow.org.
Yeah. Very quickly, Brookshire, please discuss that most cysts feel different from breast cancer lumps. A tumour will feel harder, like a marble.
It
can and it can't, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just comes back to, you've got to change something different and you report it.
Yeah. All right. And I know that we have a backlog in the National Health Service in England, but I think it's just taking action and getting in the queue. I think there is a bit of a backlog, isn't there?
Well, in terms of breast change, you've got to breast change, see your GP.
I mean, I just think that they're quite, the National Health has been, but I just think there's been a long time when women have not maybe had the opportunity to have a mammogram. And I think there's been quite a few undetected things, and having something on a Zoom with your GP is not really the same. No. So so if you feel through sitting at home a lot, you maybe had something, you're not sure, you don't want to make a fuss, whatever, make a fuss, get checked.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on, Rachel.
It's a pleasure.
Really, really clear and helpful, and thank you everyone for all your comments. Please leave comments afterwards. Very important for other people to hear support and stories of what they have gone through and what you have gone through. All right.
Thanks so much, Trinny.
Okay, darling. Thank you, everybody. That was so, I really, I know so many of you on here have gone through this, and I have not gone through this. And so I learned a lot today. I hope those of you who didn't know so much or were feeling a bit nervous, it's given you some confidence as to what to do. Thank you so much for watching.